again. My name is Reinhild Niebuhr and I am ready to talk about young Africa today in this third episode. If you haven't seen episode 1 and 2, may I recommend that you just stop this video and first watch them so that you have a little bit of an idea of why I'm saying what I'm saying and what I'm talking about before you watch this episode. But anyway, for those of you who have already seen episode 1 and 2, welcome to episode 3. Now, in episode 2, I was talking about the big question: how do we help people in Africa? And actually it is, how do we help people in general in the world develop themselves? And this has really been a big question for me. I was a consultant. I was traveling all over Southern Africa. I also did consulting work in other countries in Africa: East Africa, West Africa, North Africa. I never did consulting work in North Africa. Mali is as high as I ever went. That's sort of more west, north, anyway, whatever. I have had the privilege of visiting a lot of countries in Africa, and I have always seen young people walking slowly, and this really drove me nuts because I thought, I've never walked slowly for a day in my life. How can a young person walk slowly? I understand if an elderly person walks slowly because, you know, they struggle to walk, whatever, but a young person walking slowly makes absolutely no sense to me. And I worked with youth and I asked, why are people walking slowly? And they said, we don't have anywhere to go. We have nowhere to go. And I thought that was extremely, extremely sad because the world is so beautiful and I just wake up in the morning and my days are too short. I have so many places to go. I always wish there were 17 of me that could do all the things that I want to do. And to have a human being that is 18 years old and with a great brain and with lots of ideas and not knowing where to go and not knowing what to do, I found that the greatest tragedy of our time. And so I decided to dedicate my life towards finding ways of helping young people in Africa to fulfill their potential. And then I started working with a non-profit organization in Mpumalanga province in South Africa, and I had volunteers coming, young people from Germany and young people from America. And I realized that they themselves were also confused and that it seems as if we are living in a time where young people are very confused about what is expected of them. And I realized that it's a bit of a backlash from my generation. My generation is the fault, is the problem, because we were the children of the baby boomers. We were the ones that had all the freedoms. Many of us were raised in an anti-authoritarian way, meaning we were told about the dangers of authority, because apartheid, for instance, was a dangerous system. And you had to question it because you had to get rid of it. But we, in a way, I think my generation threw out the baby with the bathwater, because then we went overboard on the freedom side and we went short on the responsibility side, and we also went overboard on the materialistic side because it was possible, you know, it became like money is the thing that you do, you make money. But I have, in my personal life, realized that money isn't what makes you happy. Not because I had that much money. I've had a lot of money, I've had no money. I've realized that that's not what makes me happy. I've also met people who were donors to our organization that were extremely wealthy and not happy. And so money isn't the thing that makes you happy. But I had to really think about these young people. What is it that a young person needs to be able to build a beautiful life? And that is really why I decided to think and why I came up with the Young Africa Vision, is to say, how can we help young people in Africa fulfill their potential? And so I started thinking about the things that I had learned that had helped me as a young person to self-develop. Because I realized very quickly, after leaving school and going to university and failing, that the school hadn't prepared me that well for life. My environment in which I grew up in hadn't prepared me that well for life. It had taught me the 10 Commandments, absolutely, I had learned those. It had taught me maths and science, it had taught me languages. I was very well prepared to get more information. But I needed some information that's going to help me understand who I am, how can I fulfill my potential. And so today I want to talk about how does any human being self-develop. And I met a woman in my early 30s and she taught me this. She's the first one that explained this to me, and it made so much sense to me that I use it as the basis of all the things that I teach. She drew a circle and she drew a cross inside the circle. And she said this thing is called a mandala. Now, mandala is a word from the Hindu language, mandala, and it's basically just, it means circle, really. It doesn't mean anything else. It just sounds nice. It almost sounds like Mandela, and so it's easy to remember. But a mandala is a circle. And the circle, this symbol, the circle with the equal-sided cross, is used practically in every culture. If you look in history, you will find this is like a basic thing that every child will start drawing. It's not as if it has any particular special meaning, but you can give it meaning. And this woman gave it the following meaning, and that is that the circle is a sign of eternity because it has no beginning and no end. It's like our life. Our life is a life in eternity. We come from God and we go on into eternity, and God has been in eternity. So each one of us is an idea of God, and each one of us is a creation of Him. He puts us into the body of our mother because for a reason. There is no unplanned baby. There are only children that arrive in particular ways. And the equal-sided cross is a symbol of perfection. And so she was explaining that the bottom of the cross represents the body, the human body. The right-hand side, which is usually the right-hand brain, I mean, you usually talk about the rational side of the mind, and you think about the things that you do to make a living, and it's about money, how you handle finances, it's about all the, your creative expression. Then we have the spirit. The spirit is at the top because ultimately we humans are spirits inside the body. When we don't need our body anymore, our spirit leaves and goes on into eternity. So when we are created, our spirit arrives in the embryo. The spirit arrives, and the child is created. And this is why people should not get rid of little growing babies, because there's a spirit that's placed there. And then we have the emotion. The emotions. We humans are made up of these four things: body, mind, spirit, and emotion. We know we have a body. We know we have a body because we can see it. We know we have a mind because we can think. Or don't you have a mind? Are you mindless? Anyway, you have a mind. We know we have emotions because we really have a broken heart if that guy that we loved so much just doesn't like us, or that girl that we really felt a lot for ignores us. So we know emotion. And spirit is something that people seem to be confused about in this day and age, which I find fascinating, because if you look at biblical teaching for 6,000 years, you have record of spiritual being, and even in all cultures you will find spirit. In fact, that's one thing that in Africa is not a question. People in Africa don't question the presence of spirit. People in Africa understand that spirit is. It's really people in Western societies that have sometimes forgotten that there's spirit, and then they limp through life without any recognition of their spiritual self. Now, when we look at our bodies, now you can't see me in full, but just imagine my feet. That my feet are representing the body. My right hand is representing my mind. My left hand is closer to the heart. It represents the emotions. And you will see that my head is quite short. The arms and the legs are more or less the same. But the neck is short. It would be looking funny if I had a giraffe neck. We don't have a giraffe neck. We need something. We need a bridge between our self and God. And that bridge is Jesus Christ. That's what the Bible teaches us. And the Holy Spirit. So in that way we can communicate through the Holy Spirit, through faith in Jesus Christ. We can communicate straight with God, which is really cool. We don't need a mediate. We don't need a medium. We don't need another spirit. We don't need anything else. We don't need to pay somebody. We don't need to get a prophet. We can just say, "Hi, Daddy. How are you? In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for making me. These are the things that I need. Please help me to think about how to make the money so I can get them." And that's basically what you can do. "This is, my heart is broken. Please help me." And if you if you read the Bible, you will always find words that will calm you down and just say, you know what, it will go over. I still love you, even if the whole world has forgotten you. I am God, I'm your daddy, I made you for a purpose. Don't feel lost, don't feel lonely, I'm there. So basically, this is a beautiful model for self-development. So as humans, we need to, our job is not to find ourselves. Some many young people say, I need to find myself. Usually, if we try finding ourselves, we lose ourselves because we get so self-absorbed and so selfish and so self-centered that we never find ourselves. We humans have been made to find each other in relationship to one another. We develop our own personality in relationship to other people. So we need to interact with other people. We need to build relationships with other people. And in that way, we develop a full-rounded character. And we see who we are. We don't really see who we are if we sit hidden in front of our computer screen in a room somewhere. We need to interact with other people. And that is really important. So, because who's going to challenge you, you know? Maybe that computer game is challenging you, but it's an empty challenge, you know, it's not really forming your character. It may form habits, it may form bad habits, it may form some good habits, you know, you like shooting the crooks, it's a pretty good habit, I suppose. But what about talking to the crook and trying to help them change their way? You can't do that on a video game. You can do it with a human being. So anyway, now the problem with us human beings is that, especially if we've been raised in Western culture, we have an extreme focus on this part here. This part here is just saying, study, work, make money, study, work, make money. That's all that it says. It's a really, really bad thing. Why? Because you neglect the body, you neglect your emotions, and you completely ignore that you have a spirit. And so you become a very one-dimensional human being. Some people now, especially when you look at Western culture, you see people are now very much into the health, so a healthy body has a healthy, healthy mind is in a healthy body, whatever. So they focus on the body. So now they're getting all fit and they eat all the right things, but they still don't have good relationships. They still sleep around. They still break other people's hearts. They still pick up diseases because they haven't looked after themselves. They still ignore their children. They're still, they're still being selfish. They're still doing all the wrong things in terms of relationships. They are not contributing to society. They are just consuming what is there. They're not contributing to citizenship. They just wait for government to give them something to consume. You know, we are supposed to build our country together. We are not supposed to sit there waiting for government, for a government, ever. Our government is only there because we don't know the 10 Commandments. That's the only reason why we're there. If we knew the 10 Commandments, we wouldn't need a government, because we would be able to manage ourselves, and we would be able to manage our relationships at a local, national, and international level. But it's because we are greedy, and because we are lazy, and because we are stealing, and because we are killing other people that we need governments. In fact, when you read the Old Testament, God was warning the Israelites to not want a king, because the king would just go and ask, make them pay taxes. So why need a government? Quite frankly, if you have a proper family structure and a proper community structure, I'm not saying that we mustn't have any government. Everybody's used to government now, so let's just live with it. But let's just not ask government to do things that we should be doing as citizens. Let's not just sit there and say, the road is bad, but not get up and do something to either fix the road or to generate an income so that you can pay the taxes, so that government can pay someone who can fix the road. And yes, I know we have people that think that they're in government because now they can fill their own pockets. These are the people that we have to make sure we vote out of the next elections. If they are in power, they must not be allowed to take our money. We must just not allow it. We must not allow anybody to negotiate with us if we have a speed fine. We must not allow it. We are the ones that are creating corruption because we allow people to be corruptible. We must just not do it. So then we don't have it. We can't just point to corruption, but then we don't, we enable it. We mustn't enable it. By voting for a corrupt party, you enable corruption. Full stop. That's it. So I'm not saying it's always the whole party. Most of the time, parties are a mess anyway, because they are made of people, and there are some fantastic people in the party. And then there are some other people that are just doing the wrong thing. So the party political structure is over. Quite frankly, I've got a book that's coming on that, but don't worry about it. I'm not talking about that now. I want to talk about this. I just want to say, as a human being, our job is to learn to manage our body. We need to learn to manage our mind. We need to learn to manage our emotion. And we need to learn how to build a relationship to God. That is our spiritual side. How to build a relationship to God and how to understand God's love so that it can shine through everything. And as a human being, we will always struggle because we are just human. We make mistakes. And this is why it is so important that we must understand, why did God send this Jesus Christ into the earth? What does it all mean? And it's basically saying Jesus is the one that gives us the center. If we put Jesus in the center of our life, he can give us a backbone. He can give us a backbone. He can give us strength. He can help us keep it all together. That's basically what it means. So this is really about how to develop your life. Learn all of these things. Now, I have designed a program called the Leadership and Entrepreneurship Program. And at the moment, I am getting ready to launch it to teach unemployed youth, aged 18 to 35 really, all across Africa, to understand how to do this, how to understand how to look after your body, how to make money, how to learn how to make money, how to learn how to develop your mind, how to have a much more interesting experience of life so that you don't walk slowly anymore, but you can't wait to run to get to the next appointment. How to manage your emotions, how to make sure that you build a solid family and not have this mess of a family all around you where people are not even talking to each other and children don't know who their father is. I mean, that's really sad. We've got to stop that, and you as a generation of youth can stop it. You can stop it. It stops. It ends with you. It can end with you. And the spiritual side. So now, if we are always focusing on one of the things, if we focus on the mind too much, then our body falls over. If we get too emotional, because our heart is so broken, and we allow our heart to be so broken that we ignore everything else, we also fall over. We can have a nervous breakdown, for instance. If we ignore God, we always wonder, why are we here on earth? Nothing makes sense. We waste a lot of time in fear, living in fear, when we should be living in love and in faith and in hope. And we waste so much time by not just simply accepting that God exists and that he made the world. And even the people that say, no, the world evolved out of a big bang, that's a theory. They try to sell it to us as a truth. It's not the truth. It's a theory. Nobody's proven it. It's a whole bunch of ideas that people have just put on the table. There is a book, it's called the Bible, and it says exactly how Earth was made. We can just accept that and get on with life. We don't have to wonder about where we come from. We know exactly where we come from. We have a book that's 6,000 years old that tells us where we came from. We came from God. God made us because he loved us. God is love. That's it. And science is proving that as we go along. Now, this course, the Leadership and Entrepreneurship Program that I'm launching, has 4 modules. It has the first module is about personal leadership development, because before we can start making money, we first need to understand ourselves. Because once we make money, we need to be ready to handle that money. So the second thing is about business leadership development, and this is about understanding how business works, and understanding how money works, and how we can make money work for us. How we don't have to work for money all the time. We must work. Why? Because we must fulfill a purpose in serving other people. But money is something that we need to understand, how to make a living, how to keep it, not how to spend it, and how to let it grow. It's a fantastic tool that God has created. And then the third one is around community leadership development, because we are not happy unless we live in a community. We human beings are not happy if we're just on our own. God, when he made Adam, the first man, he immediately saw this is not a good plan. It's not good that the human being must be on his or her own. And he made a partner for that human being. And that is true whether you are, whether you are married or whether you are single, it doesn't matter. It's just about saying a human being is not happy unless he has someone he can laugh with or she can laugh with, or someone who can help them carry something. It's just we are made to live in relationship to one another. It doesn't mean that it's just about the husband or the wife or whatever. It's about the children, and it's about the granny, and it's about the friend and the neighbor, and it's about the work colleague, and it's about the president, and it's about everybody. We need each other, and then we can have good and manage our emotions and express and have a rich emotional life. And then the spirit part. The total course is built on biblical principles, because I have just realized there was a time in my life when I didn't want God to be there. I really didn't want there to be a God, and I will talk about it in another episode. But I realized that if there isn't a God, that the world became a really scary place. Because then it really means that we are animals, because we can just do what we like. We can do what we like. There's no accountability at the end of our life. We can just kill other people and take what they've got, because there's no accountability at the end of our life. And we can just have a survival of the fittest, which is what animals do. But we are not animals. We are humans, and we have to learn to become a real human. And it doesn't matter how much melanin we have in our skin. I have very hardly any. I'm extremely pale. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make me a different human being. My hair is like this. I really wish I had beautiful curls. We always want what we don't have. We must just ignore these things. These are just superficial things. We are humans, and we are on this earth as brothers and sisters, and we need to serve and to love each other. And in that way we build the most beautiful life. So thank you for listening. Okay, just earlier on I was talking about this whole thing around people who say, I need to find myself. And I said, if you try to find yourself, you generally lose yourself, because we're not supposed to find ourselves. We're supposed to create ourselves. As we human beings arrive on earth, we have people around us who are going to help create us. Your mother has helped create you in terms of the way you think. Your father has helped create you, whether he was there or whether he was absent. That is something that has had an influence on your life. It has created you in a particular way. And very often you may have had people around you that have created you in a negative way. I have worked with many youth now, and I realize that many children have been sexually abused. That is someone creating you in a negative way. So now once you start thinking, when you are older, you can start thinking about creating yourself. And you can always ask God for guidance about what is it that He has, why has He created you? Don't wonder, what must I do one day? Don't wonder. Ask God in prayer, in the name of His Son Jesus Christ, to open the right doors for you. My life has been so interesting. I always thought I wanted to be, since I was 3 years old, I had decided, put this thing into my mind, I want to be a doctor. Why did I want to be a doctor? Because I really wanted to help people. And at the time, I thought being a doctor is the best way of helping people. I never for once, even though I grew up in a home where we were believing, my parents were believing in God, we were reading the Bible, we really understood what it means that Jesus Christ has come to restore the relationship between us and God. But I never thought, and my parents actually also didn't tell me to ask God. It's only in my late 20s when I realized that I actually had wasted so much time by not asking God. But the Bible also teaches us that for those who love God, all things will be turned to good. So even though I was blundering my way through life and making lots of mistakes and doing all kinds of things, when I look back at my life, all those experiences have taught me things that have made me who I am now, and have given me an opportunity to tell you what not to do. Because I have done it and I made a mistake and it was silly. And now if you can listen to some of my advice, you can avoid that mistake. I was working at some point with a very interesting African thought leader. His name is Professor Mandivamba Rukuni. And if you find any of his books, I really encourage you to read them. They are amazing. And he was saying something, he had picked it up somewhere. I don't think he was the originator of it, but it was just really the thing about, what is the definition of stupid? Do you know what is the definition of stupid? Definition of stupid is not learning from your own mistakes. It's normal to make a mistake. You're not stupid to make a mistake. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the faster you learn. So it's a good thing to make a mistake. But to make the same mistake twice, that's a bit stupid. Wouldn't you agree? Then, second thing, what is the definition of clever? What is the definition of clever? Yes, absolutely. Learning from your own mistake. That's the definition of clever. So, if you make a mistake and you learn from it, you are clever. That's what makes you clever. Make a mistake, do a lot of things, make a lot of mistakes and learn from them. And move forward, and then you are clever. So now what is the definition of wisdom? Being wise. What is the definition of being wise? Think about it. Let me explain. Definition of wisdom is learning from another person's mistake. Meaning you can move faster through life without having to make all your own mistakes by learning from another person's mistake. This is why it's so important that we must talk to older and more experienced people who have made mistakes already, who have learned from them, and learn from their mistake and not just go and make the same mistake over again. I found it extremely sad that I had a lovely, when I was 25, I met a young woman who was 26. She was the one responsible for keeping the office clean at the place where I had started my first business. And she was very miserable because she had fallen pregnant as a teenager, and that meant at the time that she couldn't finish her high school, and she was very intelligent. And now she had to work to clean somebody's office, and she was very depressed because she really had intended, she hadn't planned for this to happen, she hadn't wanted it to happen, and she was extremely determined that her daughter should never have the life that she had. And so she did everything she could to help her daughter to go to school and to learn. And so that, and she explained to her daughter that she must be careful in terms of managing her sexuality, because otherwise she would fall into the same trap as she had fallen. And guess what? The daughter did not listen to the mother. So the next generation, the one day, I mean, this woman became my friend, and wherever I moved, she moved with me, and she always looked after my spaces so that I had beautiful spaces that she kept clean for me, and she made sure my clothing was in order, and she also over time developed her skills to be able to play a more important role. Later on she was running a cleaning service for an organization that I was responsible for, and she really evolved and grew into a very accomplished woman. But one day she came to me and she was in tears, and she said, my daughter is pregnant, and her daughter was 16 years old. And I felt so sorry for her, because now the daughter had not learned from her mother's mistake. She had ignored her mother. She was rebellious. She was thinking she knows better, and her mother has nothing to say to her because she's a young person. Mommy is old-fashioned. She didn't want to listen to the mother. And now the daughter was in the same situation, and the daughter was not finishing her matric in time. And then she had to struggle with the baby while she was doing the matric. You know, it was a mess. And I have lived now for a long time. So 2 years ago, I get a phone call from the daughter, and she's in tears. And she says, I don't know where my daughter is. This is now the granddaughter of the woman that is my age. She says, I don't know where my daughter is. I have phoned the police and I don't know what to do. And I said to her, I'm going to start praying. I'm going to start praying. And you must start praying. And the police will find your daughter. I believe the police will find your daughter, and they will bring her home. And when they bring her home, bring her to me. Bring her to me. And we will talk to see what can we do to help her. She wasn't pregnant, she was missing. So the daughter came to my house, and I spoke with her. It was the mother of the daughter. This is not the daughter of, because in fact my friend, the one who had always looked after my spaces, had passed away very young, a couple of years before. And so I had said that I will keep an eye on her daughter and on her granddaughter. And of course they live in a different place, and her daughter was married in the meantime. She has a lovely husband, but her daughter was a rebellious teenager. And she had disappeared. Why had she disappeared? Because she had started taking drugs. She had started taking drugs. And in fact, she was known among the children at school as somebody who would exchange sex for drugs. and they would call her bad names, and she had disappeared because she had been called a bad name at the school. And this was worse than her grandmother. So the situation has become from bad to worse. And this is the tragedy of the reality of the time that we live in, where young people think they know everything and elderly people must be ignored. Instead, and so they don't only act in a stupid way because they don't learn from their own mistake. They will never be clever because they don't learn from their own mistake. And in fact, they will never be wise because they don't choose to learn from someone else's mistake. So it's really important to understand that we as human beings need to learn from each other so that we can be wise and that we don't have to make those mistakes. So as I teach in the Leadership and Entrepreneurship Program, I talk about a lot of my mistakes and I explain to you why you should avoid them so that you can move faster, so that you don't have to be struggling in the same way that I had to struggle through those mistakes. You can be wise. You can learn from someone like me. You can also learn from many, many other people who are talking about their mistakes, and you don't have to make that mistake. So make a decision today to be somebody who's going to be clever, because you are going to be learning from your own mistake. And secondly, somebody who's going to be wise, because you are going to learn from other people's mistakes. See you in episode 4.